Hey everybody, Stan Scott here with Foggy Bottom Line Media, once again bringing you our weekly podcast. It's Wednesday, January 14th, about 10 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm joined by my co-host, Scott
Hi,
Konopasek.
everyone.
And today we're going to, last week I did some video on the ice shooting in Minneapolis, and we're going to talk about that again today. We got some videos to show you, and we want to talk about what all this might mean for American citizens and for American politics. Before we jump into that, though, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell so you'll get notifications. Remember to like, comment, share. We'd like to do some live videos, and if we can get up to a certain number of subscribers on YouTube, it makes it a lot easier for us to do that. So right now, that's the best way to show your support. But you can also find us on Patreon if you want to subscribe for some exclusive content. So, Scott, I sent you some links yesterday to some of these videos so that you could take a look at them before we talk about it. And so I guess I just wanted to start by asking you, what do you think is going on here? How does all this stuff make you feel?
Yeah, well, that's a pretty complicated question in a way because on a visceral, personal level, it makes me very angry, and it makes me question why those federal agents are there in the first place. They're not there to do the routine enforcement or routine uh, uh, deportation of non-citizens like they're doing across the country. They're there. They've invaded. They've invaded the city of Minneapolis and other places in Minnesota for political reasons. And so the whole pretext for why they're there angers me. But then the individual tactics, the bullying, the Gestapo style uh, treatment of people, uh, that's further infuriating. And if I were a European looking at the United States, I would look at this as a paramilitary invasion. And
Mm-hmm.
and and what's concerning to me is Americans have a history of putting up with this kind of stuff for so long, uh, and then they get pissed off, and then they react.
Yeah,
And we're starting to see people reacting by hollering and screaming in the streets, which is provoking things a little bit further,
right.
as shown in the videos there. Uh, so I don't know. I'm very concerned about where we're at right now in Minnesota specifically, but also as a nation, how we just we're watching this and talking about it, but it's still happening.
Yeah. So I guess we could. I mean, what it makes me feel like, and once we'll show you some of these videos, and it 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 makes me think of what it calls to my mind is that the Trump administration has been looking for some sort of police force or military force that they could use to basically intimidate and dominate Americans, especially in blue cities, in the liberal parts, more liberal parts of the country. Because the Supreme Court has sort of pushed back on using the National Guard, and because the posse comitatus laws keep them from using the Army for this kind of thing, they've settled on using these immigrations and customs enforcement troops. I'm going to call them troops because they dress that way. To do
They
this
dress like
under the
duck
color
hunters.
of immigration enforcement. What's that?
I think they dress like duck hunters.
Well, they do look like those guys that show up at the Capitol every year here in Virginia to petition for to protect the Second Amendments, and they're all
Yeah,
decked
the
out in
militia types. Yeah.
their tactical gear with their AR-15s and all that, and a lot of them could probably push away from the buffet line a little bit, but and not hurt themselves. But not to body shame anyone, but these you see these videos, and a lot of these guys don't really look like elite troops. And the other interesting thing to me is that they're not in uniform. So there's a couple of things about these guys that demonstrate a serious lack of professionalism across the board, right? The first is they're just not in uniform. There's no consistency to their uniforms, right? Secondly, they're wearing masks, right? And the excuse there is, well, we get doxxed. Okay, well, if you're getting doxxed, it's maybe because you're doing something people don't like, and maybe you should stop doing that. And then the third thing is that they don't seem to care anything about de-escalating situations, and in fact, they tend to escalate situations. These guys are at a gas station and they stopped a person who's pumping gas. And this gentleman that they're attacking here, and it'll rewind here in a second, they're basically, they don't like that they're being videotaped. Okay? So watch what they do. That's what happened.
Video captured in St. Paul, Minnesota shows Border Patrol agents tackling an anti-ICE protester during an immigration enforcement operation. The man, who authorities did not identify, was filming ICE activity at a gas station at the time.
This guy just attacks him.
The Department of Homeland Security says the man, a U.S. citizen, did not comply with a lawfully given order and was arrested. The agency said he was part of a crowd that formed while agents were arresting a man from Honduras who had a final order of removal since 2020.
Okay, so I guess the thing that stands out, tell me what you think, Scott. The thing that stands out to me here, and this is a theme, this will be a theme across the board, is their reason for attacking this man is that he did not comply.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, are we in a situation where the United States federal government is telling us that if you do not comply, if you're non-compliant, if you don't follow orders, we'll just assault you and beat you up and throw you on the ground?
Yeah, so my first question is, by what authority do these guys issue the orders, and why should that authority be respected? The government hasn't made a case for why they consider these orders lawful and binding and enforceable. You know, he's a U.S. citizen. He did not commit any offense. He hurt the feelings of the little snowflake immigration agent. So he threw a punch at him and kicked at him. You know, that's not the way you get respect. That's not the way your orders get respect. And if compliance to orders, to lawful orders, is such a big deal, how come the administration hasn't released the Epstein files? You know, they're not complying with an order a lawful order that they were given by the courts and by Congress. You know, so selectively saying non-compliance is a capital offense, or one that makes you vulnerable to physical assault, is crazy. It's hypocritical and it's shallow. And if that's the best defense that Homeland Security can come up with for justifying their behaviors, and if we let them get away with it, this country is in a world of hurt.
I think that I think there's two things happening here. They're trying to create conditions where the American people are just a bunch of compliant sheep that let them go around doing whatever they want to do. And they have two excuses for this kind of assault on a citizen and arresting a citizen with no grounds. And that is, either you didn't comply with our orders, and we contend that every order we give is lawful, right? Or you obstructed somehow our operation. And this kind of claim, especially the obstruction part, it's very easy to make that claim. Now, one important thing to note is that a lot of these folks, and this guy was released pretty soon after, he's not breaking the law. It is absolutely legal for him to stand there and videotape what they're doing. It's absolutely legal for him to do that. He's in a public place. He needs to keep his distance and make sure he doesn't actively interfere with what they're doing, but he does not have to move back if he's already got that distance. And this is why a lot of these folks are getting released without being charged with a crime. And when they do try to get an indictment, grand juries are saying, no, we're not going to indict this guy for throwing a sandwich at a guy who's wearing a protective vest. Right?
Yeah, I don't think the intent for picking these guys up, arresting them, is actually to get them indicted or to prosecute them. I think
Right.
it's a pretext for a beatdown.
Right.
It's a pretext to be able to pound their heads into the cement and to rough them up and to show who's boss. And there's
way to the center of the crowd and found a woman being held.
Sorry.
Well, most of these follow that same kind of pattern. They escalate rather than de-escalate, and they detain people that have done nothing wrong, and they end up not prosecuting them after they beat the crap out of them.
Right. And this is, we have a couple other videos here. One of the things that these guys like to do is drag people out of their vehicles, and this is what Renee Good was worried about. Right now, they approached her vehicle, and we talked about this last week. You can go back and look at my live version on this one, but she was worried about being dragged out of her car because they stopped. She's waving them along, saying, "Go ahead and go around me." She's not obstructing them. She's not blocking the street. But then they got out of the vehicle, approached her, started trying to pull on her door, and I understand why she might have been afraid of being pulled out of her vehicle, because that's one of the things they do. But they could have just said, "Hey, excuse me, ma'am, can you turn off the engine? We'd like to talk to you a little bit." And, if you show respect, it's a lot easier to be respected, to get respect, right?
Right. Yeah. Have you noticed on those, on the body armor they're wearing, they have the little pockets, and they have this little orange hammer looking thing in one of the pockets. That's an emergency device that was designed to break tempered glass, to break the kind of glass that's in the windshield and in the doors of a car. And they're walking around anticipating and expecting and forearmed to be busting out people's windows and yanking them out of a car.
Right.
And then the support guys following them are walking around with M16s as if they're on some type of jungle patrol in Vietnam, or rabbit hunting. But it's really it's really disturbing as military guys, as former Army veterans and combat soldiers, to see people playing dress up, trying to enforce their version of the law is very, very upsetting. And they're not really trained, they're not disciplined, and they're not lawful in what they're doing.
And this is an important part of this discussion too, folks, because they're talking about compliance with lawful orders. What exactly does that mean? What authority do they actually have? Right now, their mission theoretically is to find undocumented immigrants, people who are in this country illegally without permission, and to deport them. And they're saying that they're focused on the worst of the criminals, the Tren de Agua guys, the gang members, MS-13 and all those, but they're basically stopping random people at gas stations because they're brown. There's no reason to think Renee Good was any kind of criminal. There's no reason to think the gentleman they stopped at this gas station in the last video was any kind of criminal, certainly not an illegal immigrant criminal, except that he's brown. So when they come to an American citizen who's standing there filming them, right, and I'm not suspected of committing any kind of crime, what authority exactly do they have over me? And that's a good question. Now, if a regular police officer comes up to me and says, hey, I need to see your license and registration, then I can say why. I can ask why. I can say, I'm not going to give you that. And they can say, well, then I'll have to pull you out of the car and arrest you. And it's, am I being detained? Am I under arrest? I can ask these kind of questions. The Constitution protects us, people, from this kind of stuff.
Right.
The Constitution protects us from random cosplaying military people roaming around with guns, stopping you on the street and saying, your papers, please. Demonstrate to me that you're a citizen.
Right. And the way that plays out, protecting our rights, is there's an investigation and legal proceeding that happens as a result of these types of incidents. And what's really concerning specifically about the shooting in Minnesota is that the federal government has shut out state government, state and local law enforcement from the investigation, when the long-standing practice is that the investigation is done jointly and collaboratively.
Right.
And even more chilling than shutting out the state government. Well, first of all, the only reason you would shut somebody out of an investigation that you normally work with is because you're hiding something, or you're going to hide something. And it turns out that the interest in doing the investigation is not against the agent who did the shooting, but they're trying to refocus the subject of any investigation to be the victim and the victim's family and the victim's associates. And that's just categorically wrong and un-American.
There's a lot of victim blaming here, and I want to show a couple more of these videos, and then Scott, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what, if anything, we can do about this, because these are serious constitutional violations, people. We've got jackbooted thugs, as the right wingers used to call them, federal agent jackbooted thugs walking around, pulling people out of their vehicles, forcing them to demonstrate citizenship, harassing people, intimidating people. And that's really what it's all about, is this intimidation stuff. So let me see if I can play another. Check this out.
Yo, what the fuck? Yo,
Pardon the language.
Y'all finna get a whole lawsuit. What? Whole lawsuit.
Watch what happens here.
Yeah.
The silver vehicle is the ICE vehicle. The black vehicle is a woman who's on her way to work. The ICE vehicle makes a hard right into the street and then hits the black vehicle, right? Clearly the ICE vehicle hit her. The ICE folks are claiming that she rammed them, okay? Now watch what happens now.
Hit and run, hit and run. That's a hit and run, hit and run, hit and run.
They're not running away. They're going to come back out and drag her out of the car.
Look, hey, watch out with that weapon. That weapon. Yo, watch out. What's wrong with you? You hit it. You hit her. Yo. What's wrong? You hit her. You hit her. You guys hit her. You guys hit her. What's wrong with y'all?
She's trying to get.
Y'all about to hold U-turn in the middle of the street. Y'all hit her. Y'all on camera. Leave her alone. She ain't even do shit. She trying to go to work. She's trying to go to work.
What the fuck?
No, what? Crazy shit. Y'all some crazy. Y'all got no heart, for real. No heart. No heart.
Get off!
She's a female.
Get off of her right now!
You guys hit her. How you guys gonna arrest her?
Get off!
This is what Renee
You
Good
guys
was
hit
worried
her.
about.
Man, how y'all gonna arrest her, man?
What are you doing?
God, bogus as fuck. You hit her. You guys hit her.
So I don't know. I don't even know. I can't hardly speak with that, right? What do you think?
Yeah,
It's disturbing.
the most jaw-dropping part you haven't shown yet is where they throw her in their vehicle and they drive away and they just leave her car, her vehicle, her purse, her personal effects in the car, and they just drive off and just snatch her away.
Yeah, we can show the rest of this. There's a couple more, about another 16 or 17 seconds. That part may not be on this video.
Keep fucking around in Chicago.
Drag her off.
Hey, baby girl, you good? Don't worry about it. Stop resisting. Don't worry about it. We need that information, bro. Ah, bogus as fuck. They just gonna leave us, huh?
So they're just going to leave that sitting there.
Right.
It blows my mind in a way that Americans could do this to each other. I mean, this is dehumanizing for these people they're doing this to. They don't consider other people as human beings with rights and value and families.
Right. You know, what's really painful to me is that they're not being held accountable. They're doing this with immunity, that the system is not protecting the citizens. You know, people act out and do stupid stuff all the time, but there are consequences. People are held accountable, and they have to account for their actions and be judged by the court of law. These guys know that there's not going to be any accountability, and they're just doing this with impunity. And the system shows no intention of making any of these folks accountable, which really bodes poorly for our government, for our form of government, and for our society.
This is another, and we'll talk about this when we talk about actions we can take here shortly. I want to show you at least one more. This one is a little bit disturbing. The ICE agents basically drag a 17-year-old kid out of a Target where the guy's working. American citizen.
Stanton, Garcia. I'm literally a U.S. citizen. I'm literally a U.S. citizen. Get the fuck out of here, Ace.
Why are you kidnapping our citizen? Why are you?
This guy right here, they let him out of the vehicle, they tortured him. This guy right here, yeah. Tortured. You okay, man? No, I'm not okay. Bro,
So 17-year-old kid, he's dragged out of the Target where he was working, right? They put him in the vehicle. They drove around. They realized he was a citizen, in fact, and they dumped him in a Walmart parking lot 8 minutes away from where they picked him up. He's a kid. He's an American citizen. People, these guys are going around our cities, walking up to people like you, Scott, and me, and demanding that we demonstrate that we're citizens. I don't carry my passport everywhere I go.
Right. You know, you left out, or we haven't got to, one really important thing during that guy's detention, is they beat the crap out of him.
Yeah.
They pounded his head into the ground. He was bloody. He was hurt. He was injured. It wasn't like, sorry, now that we know that you're an American citizen, we're going to just let you out. It's during that process, they said torture. That's not exactly the word, but they assaulted him, and that's not right.
And folks, remember, let's keep in mind, a lot of people would say, well, he was struggling, right? They had to, the woman they pulled out of the car, she didn't want to go with them. Don't forget, these people are they're snatching people off the street and deporting them to a prison in El Salvador. They're snatching people off the street, taking them somewhere, and keeping them incommunicado for days. I'd try to resist going with them too. Right? I mean, anyone with any sense would say, wait a minute, I'm not getting in a car with you. Are you crazy?
Yeah, resistance is not guilt.
Yeah,
it's common sense.
No, and you guys, folks, this is about to get worse. It's getting worse every day. These folks are they're violating constitutional rights, not only for citizens like this young man, but even non-citizens have constitutional rights. Okay, and they're not reading Miranda to anyone. They're not reading anyone their rights. They're not giving anyone access to attorneys. Okay, and they think that because they're immigration agents and not regular police officers, they don't have to. And your constitutional rights are not suspended just because these are immigration agents and not regular police officers or FBI or someone else. So I guess, Scott, we need to talk about what we can do about this. Right? Now, one of the things that people are doing, and this is what Renee Good was doing, is their local groups are training citizens, they're training community members to on how to interact with these in the best way, to de-escalate, to keep an eye on them. We know about the Renee Good thing because the wife was filming it. We know about this because someone whipped out their phone and was filming it, right? So we've got the observation part. People are keeping an eye on this, and to the extent possible, like I said, shaming them. What else can we do, Scott? What do you think? What other actions can we take?
Well, I think we need to continue to do that, but we also need to we need to influence our elected officials to make the system start working again. The system has seized up. The system of due process of holding people accountable has stopped. And when I talk about elected officials who might be able to do something about it, I'm really talking about Congress, but not just Congress, but the Republicans in Congress. The Democrats can complain and talk and bemoan the current situation till the cows come home, but they can't do anything about it. On the other hand, the Republicans, with the governing majority in the House and the Senate and the presidency, they can do something about it. And they need to. And we need to focus our efforts at influencing electeds on those Republicans. Tom Tillis just last week stood up and said, no more of this in terms of the Federal Reserve. And we need more Republicans to stand up and say, hey, ICE, you can't do this, or we're going to stop you from doing it. And there's a number of different things that Congress can do to put the brakes on it. But I see a lot of irony all the time in life, and one of the ironic things is we have the President of the United States encouraging demonstrators in Iran to go to the streets to challenge the government, to challenge law enforcement, and he's going to come and help them. But now when his citizens in his country do the same thing, he sends the same goons out to suppress them as the Ayatollah does.
I hadn't thought about that, but that's irony is that's a great point, that he's encouraging unrest and revolution in Iran, but he's doing everything he can to suppress it here. So And I think trying to influence, we have an election coming up, and we probably want to have, at some point, Scott, talk about the implications of all this for our elections this year, because I can imagine that having ICE agents roaming the street in a blue city like Indianapolis would have a definite suppressive effect on Democratic Party voters to keep them from coming out. And maybe this is why they want to get rid of mail ballots.
In general. Imagine one of those ICE vehicles parked in front of a polling place.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody will show up.
Yeah. And this is your expertise there, so we should probably think about a separate show on the larger implications of this for elections this year, because at the end of the day, if we can't convince some Republicans to do what the founders expected Congress to do and be jealous of its own power and not just hand it over to the president, which is what Republicans are doing now, then we have to take back at least one house of Congress so that Democratic Party leaders can do the kind of investigations and things like that need to be done, the kind of hearings to expose this. Because really, I worry, Scott, and I'm not advocating this by any stretch, but I worry that in some communities, at least, this will at some point become a shooting war between American citizens and these agents. Because when I'm watching these kinds of videos, and I'm thinking to myself, if I was standing there just watching two thugs pull a woman out of her car, if I'm packing, I'm pulling my weapon and I'm, putting a stop to it. Right.
Right.
Now that's not a good idea. When there's 14 armed agents, right, and you're by yourself,
right? Because they're going to make you accountable for that action.
They are. You're not complying enough, right? But I can imagine in some communities, some of these activists that are keeping an eye on this, at some point, someone's going to say, you know what? Maybe we need to be armed,
right?
And it's legal. Second Amendment protects my right, and all these Second Amendment advocates out there are saying, the blood of tyrants waters the tree of liberty, blah blah blah, right? And folks, this is tyrannical behavior here,
right? And Stan, you're talking about individual actions that people can take, actions at an individual level. Being the former Intel guy, I'm always looking for indicators of what might be coming down the road and what might be happening. There were some reports a few days ago, I haven't heard much about it recently, where Governor Walz activated or issued a warning order to the Minnesota National Guard. And if I were Governor Walz and I was thinking about calling up the National Guard and I was going to give them a mission, the mission would be to protect the citizens from ICE.
Right.
Setting up two armed groups against each other. And we're not out of the woods yet. And maybe part of the reason we haven't heard any more about this is because the Guard is actually being called up. And if they're given a mission to protect the citizens from federal agents, that's a scary proposition.
I think that I have to tell you, if I'm the mayor of a city and ICE comes to my city and starts doing this kind of thing, I'm calling the police chief into my office and telling him, you got to protect our citizens from these people. If they're breaking the law, I want them arrested and prosecuted. And if you don't want to do that, I'll find another police chief. Yeah.
Well, in this particular case in Minneapolis, there's less than 600 police officers on the force. ICE has showed up with 2,000 agents initially, and they're sending another 1,000 in. So you got a 5-to-1 ratio of ICE agents to police department.
I think it's important. We talk about what we can do about this, and obviously doing what we're doing now, right? Hammering on this subject, making sure people understand what's going on, talking about it, trying to influence congressional representatives, especially Republicans right now, since they control the House, continuing to do this observation stuff. So this stuff is documented. But I think one of the things we need to do is find a way to hold these people accountable somehow, whether it's through regular civilian police officers doing their jobs, whether it's civil suits against ICE and these particular agents. And I expect that's about to happen with the Renee Good thing. And then basically figuring out a way that we can at least curb their enthusiasm a little bit. This is bona fide brown shirt stuff here. You know, in the 30s, the Nazi Party had thugs that would go around to political meetings of other parties and just beat the crap out of people.
Right.
And this is the kind of intimidation that these people are using. They want you off the street. They want you compliant. They want you following instructions. They don't want you to be a thinking American, jealous of our constitutional rights. And we have to explain to them somehow that we're not going to sit back and be the sheep they want us to be. Right? So,
and
I mean, thoughts, Scott? I just don't know. I don't know what else to say, except that if I were running for office, I would be saying things like, elect me and I'll defund these jokers. And if I have to shut down the government to do it, I will do that. Elect me and I'll get legislation passed that prohibits them wearing masks, that law enforcement officers cannot wear a mask. I will pass legislation forcing them to identify themselves as agents and to get warrants to arrest people. They're talking about going door to door. Right. They're going to come knock on my door. And I saw a video, Scott, I don't have it handy, but I saw a video the other day where a woman had ordered DoorDash, right? The DoorDash delivery driver shows up, brings the food, and then ICE shows up trying to arrest the DoorDash person. She's inside the house. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so don't take my word for it, but they can't come inside your house if they don't have a warrant, a judicial warrant. Okay, so tell them, you got to stay outside, get off my property. And when the woman inside actually called the police and asked the police, hey, I got this problem here, I don't know what to do. And the police said, you got to hand her over. Yeah. And my response to the police would be, well, I'm not doing that. And eventually some other people from the neighborhood came around. This is important, folks. Some other people from the neighborhood from the community came and started taping it and started telling them, you can't be on her property if she doesn't want you there. And the ICE folks eventually left without the DoorDash driver. But this is the kind of shit they're doing. And I don't know. We talked about some things we can do. Any other ideas, Scott?
Yeah. So electing Democrats going forward is one thing, but it's not immediate. It's a long-term in the future kind of solution. And it's not even that certain that we're going to have a credible election this year to actually elect Democratic leaders. So that leaves us with the unfortunate reality that the only people who can stop or temper or slow down what we're seeing going on right now are Republicans in Congress.
That's right. That's absolutely true.
They are the only ones who can do something about it. Democrats can talk about it. Republicans can do something about it. So I would encourage people to put pressure on their elected representatives who are Republicans to take back their constitutional duties and authority and stand up and appropriate, unappropriate, disappropriate funds for this kind of activity, and to assert their authority in lawmaking and enforcing the laws, and reestablish some type of balance of power in DC. The Republicans are the only ones who can do it. So
unfortunately.
They should be our target.
And folks, we plan, excuse me, Scott and I both live in the 1st Congressional District here in Virginia, and we've been talking to, there's several candidates for that office this fall. We're setting up interviews with them to do on the podcast. So once we have those scheduled, we'll let you know when those will be, so that we can make sure everyone gets a chance to hear from these folks, and we can ask them that question: what are you going to do about this if you get into office? And to me, part of it has to be to basically the Trump regime has expanded the scope of their activities. They're doing traffic stops now, right? And we need to narrow that scope back to their original mission, which is, and this is a good one, we need to do this. We need someone finding the Tren de Agua members and the MS-13 members, these illegal gangs from foreign countries who are, whether or not they're here illegally, right? If they're gang members, they need to be arrested and prosecuted and deported if appropriate. But that's not what these folks are doing, going door to door in Minneapolis, stopping random people at gas stations, dragging women out of their car because they had the unfortunate bad luck to be struck by an ICE vehicle, right? There's another video of a woman who is on her way to work. She's a physical therapist. She's pulled out of the vehicle and roughed up, and she's a citizen. She's not even brown. Right. So, there's all kinds of examples about this out there. We could sit here all day showing you videos, but just go Google ICE in Minneapolis or ICE assault or, ICE detaining, ICE pulled a woman out of a car, and you'll see all kinds of disturbing examples of the kind of thuggery these people are doing. So
yeah, the abuses and the thuggery goes on and on and on. Yeah. Border Patrol has the word border in its name because it has legal authority on the border. Mm-hmm. In fact, by statute, the Border Patrol can only operate within 100 miles of the border. And Minneapolis is a lot further than 100 miles away from the border. Yeah. So just another example of institutional abuses of power. Yeah. And not just the individual abuses that we've been looking at and talking about.
Yeah. Well, we're coming up on 45 minutes, so I guess we can start winding this down. So what we have here, just to sum up, and then Scott, I'll get some final thoughts from you. Yeah. But just to sum up, we have federal agents under color of immigration and customs enforcement roaming the streets of Minneapolis and other cities. They're in Portland as well. And they are they're pulling people out of their vehicles. They're stopping random people, demanding that they demonstrate that they're citizens. They're pulling teenagers out of their after-school job at Target, demanding that they demonstrate they're citizens. They're roughing up people who are doing nothing wrong and not breaking any rules. And last week, one of them fatally shot a woman for not complying with their instructions, which goes against every law enforcement protocol, that deadly force is to be used only when it's absolutely necessary to defend yourself or defend life. And by those same protocols, even Border Patrol protocols, being being threatened with being run over by a vehicle does not justify that use of deadly force. You're required to get out of the way and then follow up later. Okay. And that officer could have easily done that. We've talked about what we can do about this, including petitioning Congress, especially Republicans in Congress, for redress of this grievance. We talked about continuing to observe and photograph them and make sure that this is publicized, that we have documentary evidence of exactly what they're doing, so that when we do get this under control, we can hold them accountable, both as individuals and as an institution. So did that sum it up fairly well? Anything to add to that, Scott?
No, you're spot on, Stan. The only thing I would add is that uh, individually and collectively, we need to try to de-escalate what's going on. Not just what's going on in a specific incident or in a specific city or a specific state, but to de-escalate the division, the rancor in our country at a larger level. Because if we don't, the consequences are unthinkable. As Americans or as human beings, when you get pushed so far and you feel so hopeless in getting the system to address your grievances, we have a long history of resorting to violence
Right.
as a nation.
Yep.
And we're going that direction. How far are we away and how fast are we going is in our control. And we need to start putting on the brakes and start de-escalating, because this is not the America that you and I defended.
No, and I worry like you do, Scott, that this fever needs to break, this division, and it's pretty clear that a lot of people who would have rejected this kind of government action are fine with it as long as it's not directed at them. And that's disturbing in itself, because that's in some sense the way Nazis took power in Germany in the 30s. And I think that I don't know what we do to break that fever, maybe time, but I worry like you do that if something doesn't change, if this isn't reined in, then we're looking at violence in the streets as Americans just get fed up with it and decide they're not going to tolerate it anymore.
Right. And I'm concerned about November being a flashpoint for what we're talking about. And we can talk about this more at length, but the president and the administration have embarked on a lot of initiatives to suppress the vote. There's been discussion about canceling the election. There's talk about suppressing turnout in blue areas.
Right.
And if there's monkey business around the November election by either party, or even allegations of it, credible allegations, that will be a flashpoint.
Well, maybe why don't we go ahead and tee that up for next week, because I think that's an important discussion to have as we start looking at an election year. And we could talk about the possibility that this is really sort of a long-term project to destroy confidence in American elections that started in 2016 and 2020, when Trump basically claimed that the election was rigged. And
it goes back to 2016 when he said millions of illegals voted for Hillary, even though he was elected.
Right, and this is a recurring theme. If you're on Facebook at all, you'll see memes saying that the Democrats aren't mad because Renee Good got shot. She's mad because their voters are being deported. And of course, that's all just complete, total, made up bullshit. But this is where some people's heads are at, and it's really a recipe for violence in the streets in the United States. And it almost looks like ICE and the Trump administration is trying to provoke it so they can do something like cancel or try to cancel an election or something like that. Even Lincoln didn't try to cancel elections. Right. But that's where we are today, folks. So stay tuned. More to come. I'm live every day this week at noon. If you want to join me on Patreon, and we'll keep going with this. Sorry, getting tongue tied. We'll keep going with this discussion on this subject and others as things develop. So stay tuned, subscribe, like, share, comment, Let us know what you think. You can find us at www.foggybottomline.com. We're on Patreon at Foggy Bottom Line, and here on YouTube at Foggy Bottom Line Media. So take care of yourselves. Watch out for yourselves. Watch out for your neighbors. And we need to work together to see if we can work our way back to the society where we're not intimidated to go to the grocery store because we've got federal agents roaming the streets, basically stopping people randomly and, violating their constitutional rights. So final thoughts there, Scott?
Yeah. I hope God blesses America.
We need all the help we can get. These are troubled times, folks. They're very difficult times, and I'm worried that things are going to get worse before they get better. But Scott and I are going to keep working on this and talking about it. So stay tuned. More to come, right?
Right. More to come.
All right. Take care, Scott.
Take
Have
care,
a good
my
afternoon.
friend.
Carry on.
Care.
And we are out here. Take care, everyone.